Um, I'm gonna only talk about Cursor today, but before I talk about Cursor, I want to ask you if you does one of your kids have the Duplo train,
The Duplo train.
the electric one?
We have the
Okay,
Brio train, at least. We have a few of those. And I
yeah,
think we
it's
have,
not the Brio, it's the Duplo
I don't
one,
even
which
think
is
don't have the Duplo one, no.
it's like so our 1 year old has it. He's a little too small for it, but he still likes it. It's like one of the best like toy experiences I've seen. Like the user experience is so good. Don't make a joke now.
No, 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 I'm just
I was
genuinely
I was
happy
treading
about
so
you talking
carefully.
about great toy experiences.
Yeah,
But your mind is in the gutter,
stop.
apparently.
So, but the user experience is like incredible. I just it's like very inspiring actually this product because the way it works is you put battery in it and you turn it on, and then if you just like gently push it, it starts driving, and then if it hits something, it just stops. And if you wanted to go backwards, you just like slowly like pushes it backwards. And when you have like a 1 year old that just like grabs it all the time and like can't figure out like how to put it back on the tracks, it just stops. It's really helpful. Um, Whereas like the Brio train, last time he tried it, got stuck in his hair. We couldn't make it
Oh
stop.
no.
Almost had to
How
cut the hair off to get the train out.
is he just getting really close, or does he have like knee
He was
long
like he put it in his hair, and he has long hair.
beautiful locks? Oh no. Oh
But
no.
yeah, this and then there's also an iPhone app for it, and the app is just like
What?
4 or 5 big buttons that are really easy for them to push. And then there's also these little plastic things that you could put on the tracks, and they do different things. So there's one that makes the train honk. So if you put that, then whenever the train crosses that thing, it starts honking. And there's one where it stops. There's one where it reverts. It's a
Nice.
really it's a strong recommendation from here for anyone who has little kids that like trains because it's really fun. And yeah, more products should just work that way. Like if the user just like pushes it a little bit, it should just understand that it's because they wanted to start driving, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Just whatever happens, keep going. Just keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hit
So
something,
anyways,
go the other way.
how's it going over there? You have anything fun going
It's
on?
fine. I don't know. I got some blinds up in the office, so now I can dim it completely. That's one problem with the recording video is that if you cut too much and then one part is recorded at one part of the day and another part is recorded and then,
Right.
like continuity issues. That's a big new issue in my life.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
wondering
so
if
I
AI will solve some of that.
oh man, that's a tricky problem, but AI is like already solving a bunch of tricky problems. So perhaps that's it. That's it. No, but everything's going fine. Fine. In fact, it's going better than usual because I'm back on my daily chores list. So, like your product, I used to have a repeating daily task list in my Things app, and
Nice.
I'm back on it, and it feels good.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been telling you to do that for a while.
You've been telling me to do to dos. Yeah, it's really great, but it's nothing fancy. It's just like uh, one thing I got from Ben Ornstein mentioning it at one point was to just like start off the day with everything closed. So start off closing
Hmm.
down anything you had open from the day before,
Yeah.
and
It's a good
I'm
one.
allowed to cheat, so I can hide a window if I don't want to like pull down all of cursor and lose my context completely. But at least start with like an open, I would call it, but it's like everything hidden or closed, and then go from there.
Yeah, I that it's kind of like inbox zero approach as well, right? Like I kind of like to do that with my
Yeah,
to-do
sort
list
of.
as well. If there's something I don't get done, I like to like actively like move it to another day or change the name of it or just like do something to like get rid of it and have a new thing instead, just to sort
Yeah.
of acknowledge it, because you sort of get blind. You become blind to the stuff that you just keep there forever.
Yeah, it's like don't put it down, put it away. That's the housewife like the old lady house tip.
I
Like
never heard that.
how to keep a clean house. I think I heard it in an Instagram reel at one point, and it stuck. Like don't put it down, put it away. So
Yeah,
every
that's a
time you
good
like
one.
you're holding a jacket or a knife or whatever you're holding,
A knife.
yeah, that's it. Just wandering around the house with a kitchen knife.
Yeah,
No, if you're
it
like,
always goes
yeah,
wrong when I put the knife down on the
yeah,
floor with little kids. You
yeah,
should really just put it away instead.
next to the Brio train, gets stuck in your kid's hair. Yeah, so that's a good rule, but it's the same for tasks or emails or whatever. Like, don't put it down, put it away. So immediately, don't just like put it back in the list. Do something with it. I think that's in the Inbox Zero rule as well. So we aren't inventing anything here. We're just rediscovering books from 20 years ago.
Great.
Yeah, but that's
I
nice.
like
But
that.
one thing I've added to the daily to do list is to, and I'm gonna sound like an
No,
Instagram lady now, but to manifest some things.
I thought you were gonna say make your bed.
Oh yeah, I do that as well actually, but I did that before as well. But I have collected some photos of just like things to aspire to, and I just like stare at them, remembering what I want to do with my life, where I want to go, what I'm dreaming of, like stuff like that. And they don't have like, if you just saw the pictures, you wouldn't understand what's going on. But to me, they have like a meaning, I guess, because they sort of represent an idea I had at some point of what I wanted to do with my existence.
Wow, dude, it's been a good week for you.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Reinventing
because I've
yourself.
started manifesting.
You're also wearing white instead of black. It's like a
Yeah,
sign.
yes.
Miguel
Yeah,
the White.
found the Lord, like Kasper Christensen,
Yeah. Oh, Jesus
some
Christ.
Dane law.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, exactly, Peter. That's the guy we're talking about. Yeah. So that's it. But actually, sort of related to it, I am getting closer and closer with the Nitro Kit, and I want to put out the version that you can buy, so I can get on with the rest of the stuff. But in the spirit of daily chores and everything, I need a deadline. That's what I've realized. So I thought we should play a game. Actually, I have a randomize draw thing open in my browser, and I've put 3 things into it. So the 3 possibilities is either today, this week, or next week. Yeah, and I think we should spin it now and figure out what my deadline is. So are you ready? Okay, it's going. I'm recording it. I'll add it to the YouTube video. It's ticking. It's going to be this week.
Oh,
All right. So
that was actually really exciting. And I'm not even seeing the video.
so now we know. It's
So
going
you
to
have
be
a
this
paid
week.
product next week, or you can like buy early, like you can
It's
pre-buy
like a
it, or you have a
pre-order. Yeah,
pre-order.
pre-order. So the Polar integration and accounts and all that. And I did myself a favor and just added teams right away. So when you buy it, you get a personal team that you don't see. But
Yeah.
that's something that I
That was one of my
regret
tips
on.
in my talk at Laravel Live this summer.
Yeah,
It's like what?
yeah,
It's a second time founder trick, I think. Just add teams from the day one.
yeah. There's an article on the I think it's the Bullet Train starter template for Rails. Then they have an article about how teams should be a day one feature. Because of course their starter template includes teams, but it's like it is a good idea. Yeah, so that's it. End of week, I'll have something up
Amazing.
that you can pre-order. So that means deciding on the price, deciding on what I
But end of
call
this
it.
tomorrow, so you could have called it tomorrow.
Yes. Yep.
or
Okay,
Sunday
Peter,
maybe.
should we go back and re-record it, or are you fine with calling it this week? Yeah, so that's it. And I asked on Twitter actually yesterday about like what's your main frustration with doing front end in Rails, and I asked in the Ruby on Rails Twitter community. Are you using those much?
No, no, not at
No,
all actually.
no. But this worked out really great actually. People,
Yeah, I saw you got a lot of replies from people,
yeah,
and so they thought I knew because they come up if I follow them in
yeah.
my
So you
feed.
can follow the topic. It's almost like a subreddit.
No, but I mean, there's a lot of people I follow on Twitter that
Oh yeah,
reply
okay.
to you, so I kept seeing your post every time someone I knew replied to.
Right, right. I think it's actually also a new thing on Twitter that the community posts just go out to everyone either
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
um, which is probably because people aren't using it.
It's just more engagement, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. But some
On
interesting
Twitter.
things
So,
came up. One was that the docs are just bad for Hotwire, which is like Turbo and Stimulus. And I agree. And I think I found out what the issue is, at least for me, is that the docs are written in a way so they can be read by someone not using Rails. So they are written in like a generic way because they can work outside of Rails. But realistically, no one is using Stimulus and Turbo outside of Rails. So
right.
every time you show up with your Rails context, it's like this isn't written for me. Like this is not what I was looking for. And then you go to the Rails specific gems, and they don't have any documentation. So that's the missing part. That's the Rails context. The Rails context is missing
Yeah.
from all the docs.
And it should be it should actually be there the whole time, but then there should be a page that's like use it without Rails.
Yeah, yeah, it should be the other way around.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, and then I think that's actually the main thing. And then a lot of people wanted like guides and examples, more examples, and I can
Good for
definitely do
you.
that. Yeah, that's good for me. So I think that's just what I should get on with. Yeah, but it
Nice.
was like fun to see people having like all had this frustration with doing front end in Rails. No one was like, "It's fine. There's nothing wrong." Everybody was like, "Yeah, it's just like there's something." The
Everyone
only
was
guy who
like
was like, the only guy who
everyone
was
was
like
what?
content was the guy who was using inertia, and it just decided on that, and then got out of there, which is not the
Everyone
answer I
said
was looking for.
this is what frustrates me, and that's why I'm building my own UI kit for Rails.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. And Leader Key is still like popular. It's over 700 stars on GitHub now, and people are just submitting pull requests and
Wow.
issues, and everything is really getting out there. So that's crazy.
Can you tell that it's like do you think it's like peaked the growth, or is it like is accelerating?
I don't know. It's the most popular video I did
Hmm.
of the four, and it's also the first one.
But like, has it taken on a life on its own on GitHub, you think? Like, has GitHub started showing it in like some trending thing or whatever?
That might be like people you see it when other people saw it, and I
Because
can see on the YouTube video that people get there from GitHub as well. So it's
it's
not only
super
the other way
cool.
around. It's
It's really
like
cool.
yeah, 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 yeah,
The GitHub algorithm to the rescue.
yeah. It is. I've hacked the GitHub algorithm, but I've actually put the YouTube videos in all the GitHub readmes. Just because like I don't make anything from those apps, so I might
Right.
as well make some subscribers.
Yeah, yeah.
I just crossed 1,000 hours of watch time today,
That's crazy.
which is like
I
every video is like 10 minutes at most. So it's
Yeah,
actually
we
crazy.
talked about it last time too, but I talked to Adam about it again yesterday. Just how like YouTube is literally the best. This is quoting Adam. YouTube is the best website on the internet. It's just
Yeah, it
like
is.
it's endless. There's there's an endless amount of extremely well produced and interesting things there, and you could just if you wanted, you could spend all your time there and be entertained and just learn interesting
Yes.
things.
Yeah. And it's not even like inhumane or something like weird or dystopian, but like
You can
anything
mess
like
up the
that.
algorithm a little bit. You got to be a little careful, but
Oh yeah, sure, but it's still like people. That's my point. Is you're gonna find people who like by themselves made this video and they show their
yeah.
face most of the time, or at least they tell their story, or like
And like the
it's
people I follow on YouTube are like, I feel like I know them extremely well, and they have no idea who I am. But
yeah,
like the people where I watch their vlogs every week, it's like I'm so invested in their lives. It makes no sense. Like
yeah.
I
It's
care
like
so much about them.
it's the same thing with the podcast, but like twice as much because you
Yeah,
see their
yeah,
face as well. Yeah, yeah. It's
right.
just a really good
And
website.
they do a good job of um, like a lot of the stuff they show me don't it's not like super popular necessarily. So, and that's what you said last time too. Like you can tell that the algorithm is helping you
Yeah, I
get
can still
views.
see that it is like people are coming in from YouTube Home or like suggested videos,
Yeah,
and they've done that from the almost from the get go. Like I wasn't popular at the beginning, but already like right away they started trying my video out. I guess is the term to use, and people clicked it. Yeah, it's wild. Like I tweeted, it's a drug, and I'm definitely hooked.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool, man.
It is. So that's I guess my update from this week.
You know how I said 2025 is going to be the year of podcasting for me and videos? I right now I'm so drawn to like cursor and AI coding and stuff that I'm kind of wondering if that's actually what my year is going to be all about,
Oh.
because I'm just so into it. It's so much fun, and I'm just I don't know, it's just been a long time since I've been so excited about technology.
So are you
It's
gonna
really
pivot?
I don't know. Maybe there's uh some in between thing, or not in between, but like maybe it's maybe the videos are just going to be all about, and the podcast are going to be all about cursor. That could be one outcome, I guess. But yeah, so I'm doing that meetup talk in 2-3 weeks, and I started thinking more seriously about what I'm actually going to do in that talk, and I decided also, I guess, sort of almost on the air last time, that I wanted to submit it to some conferences. So the first thing I did this week is I posted a tweet, because I kind of had the title I had for the meetup, just because I had to like come up with something on the go. Um, was like kind of fear based, which is never good. It was cursor, embrace it or be replaced. It's kind of dark. um,
Replace
but
it or
then
get killed.
yeah, or we'll torture you. And I thought about like maybe I should make it more inspiring and more like something desirable. And so I tweeted a poll where I asked if they liked that the old title, or I think I called it what was the action? I just want to make sure I say the right one. High speed development, high speed Laravel development, I think, with cursor. And I think 95% of people liked high speed development, Laravel development as a title over the dark one. So I changed the title, and then the next thing I did is I wanted to submit basically a talk proposal for 2 conferences for this talk, but I was kind of like, I don't know, I like brainstorming that kind of stuff, and traditionally I would do that with maybe a friend, or I don't know, just spend a long time just like trying to like write down what I think the talk would be, and then maybe I would actually start doing the talk, but then I would realize that it's like not really like very good, and I would like do it over again. But then, so what I did instead is I went for a long walk in the forest, and I did like voice mode on ChatGPT, not the advanced voice mode, just the one where it transcribes and then you send it. And I asked it to like help me brainstorm this talk idea, and and basically challenge my ideas and help me sort of find out what the talk was actually going to be about and what it was going to cover. And it was really good at it. It's like sometimes you just really like you're just lucky and you just get the prompt right. And I feel like that's what happened there because it was really to the point. Like, what's actually the key point that you're going to make in this talk? Because right now there's like you're saying a lot of different things and who's it for and stuff like that. And then it kept like it kept challenging everything I said, and it's like I think that's a good idea, but like, could you challenge it in this way, or how? What if you thought about it this way? And it was like I talked to it for 45 minutes, which was kind of wild. I don't think I've ever talked to it for that long. And yeah, I think we ended up at a really good place in the end. And then in the end, I was like, can you like sort of in my casual writing style turn this into a talk abstract? And that's what
Can
he
you just
submitted.
can you just do it for me, please?
Yeah, yeah. So like I made a few tweaks, but that's basically what I submitted. And I mean, it's my ideas, it's my thoughts, but it just it helped pull it out of me because it kept saying stuff, and then I was like, actually, now that you say that, like, it kind of reminds me that I also want to touch on this topic, or this is an idea I had for a long time. Um, yeah, so that was really helpful. Um, I still, yeah, so I haven't really written the talk yet because I've just been busy with other things, but that was like positive AI experience number one this week, and then uh, because like I always like I want to make sure I work a little bit on something that I want to talk about in the podcast before we record the podcast. So again, like I only had like an hour before we were recording today to work on my receipts app, and have this big feature that I hadn't touched yet at all, which is basically once I've processed one of the purchases. So the app basically is like you can send an email, forward an email with a receipt, and then the app parses that email and sort of keeps track of your purchases and subscriptions. So it's kind of like a subscription monitoring tool. Um, but so far the app didn't have any concept of a subscription, so it felt like a big feature, and it's the kind of thing that's like you procrastinate on a bit, and I don't know, it's just a big kind of feature. And I only had an hour, so okay, let's try to tackle this. And one thing I think I said last time, my homework was to look at cursor rules this week, which I did earlier in the week, and I found them kind of tricky to write because I didn't really like the cursor documentation. Doesn't really have is really bad. Basically, they should have an LLM write some documentation for them because it's clearly a human that wrote it. Because it's like just a couple sentences.
I have like a one link out experience of the cursor boys. I'm gonna say because I'm pretty sure they're all boys, and from working with someone who works with them, and they seem like just young gunslinging dudes who are just going with it. So I'm not surprised that the docs aren't in order.
Yeah. But I did find like a lot of like GitHub repositories and stuff with example cursor rule files. So I sort of got the gist of it. But then yeah, then I had the idea to like because so basically the rules I wrote, it wouldn't always follow them, and you need to be like pretty clear, and you need to be repeat stuff, I think, and be really explicit about what you wanted to do. Because it's really easy for it to ignore it, apparently.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, then
Also,
today, and
yeah. Go ahead.
I
Sorry.
tweeted about this as well, but then I had the idea to just have ChatGPT write the rules because it also made it easier to like keep it up to date whenever I sort of because so my experience was like I would add a rule about something and then it wouldn't do it or would just do it badly, and I wanted to sort of clarify it. And then the easiest thing is to just clarify it in the chat or in the in the prompt in agent mode, but then you don't really get the benefit of the cursor rule because you're not updating the cursor rule. So instead I go back to ChatGPT now, and I ask it to update the rule based on what cursor screwed up, and then the rule just keeps getting better. I started with those rules today. That one is about kind of Laravel, because sometimes agent mode would just like invent its own solutions to things that Laravel already has solutions for. So I want to make it really clear that it should always do it the Laravel way, always use Laravel generators and functions and stuff like that. And then the other one I did, it was sort of the TDD workflow that I like to use, and that's like that turned out to be the real key for like making it both really fun and really effective for me to use Cursor, because this just like it lets me keep the control at a whole like different level. That's actually what the whole talk is going to be about. Like I'm going to just show you how fast you can go with Cursor, but then the inevitable problem with that is just that you're going to crash into something. So you need all these guardrails. Like you need tests, you need version control, you need good architecture, you need to refactor your code, all these different, like, you need the cursor rules, all this stuff that's sort of guardrails that makes it possible to go that fast. Yeah, so I had all those things in place, and I started building this subscriptions feature. And like basically the short version is that like this whole feature, not the UI part, but just the whole underlying feature of like, a job is dispatched that'll check for if a purchase matches an existing subscription or add a new subscription. And if it's the first time we see that subscription, it's like marked as it still needs to be verified by the user, so the user can see if they actually if it is a subscription or if it's right or not. And it's like fully tested. And I did all that in like half an hour before the call. And I have the pull request on GitHub now because I like to review it on GitHub still. Just I don't know why actually, but I just like the GitHub pull request review. So I have the pull request there with like the tests and everything, and we've already done I've already had to do like some refactoring, and there's a lot of like little things along the way that you wanted to do differently. But then when you have the tests, you just like I've taught it to like always run the test every time it makes a change, and yeah, it's just incredible. And I think this is
are you going one test at a time? So it's like red dot,
no.
green dot, sort of.
Yeah, I'm not going one test at a time, but I'm going like it's allowed to like write 3 test cases at once. But
so it's specified 3 is the most that you can write.
No, but it's allowed to write multiple. But once it's written the tests, I want to review the test before it starts implementing the feature.
All right.
So that's sort of my guardrail there, and like just like it's just so good. Like I just want to like talk through some of the things that I did in this. Like I'm not sharing my screen, but like I'll just mention it here. Like one thing I misunderstood was that the status of the subscription was like the subscriptions. It thought of it as like the status of the subscription, like whether it's canceled or it's active. But what I wanted it to be was more like, has a user approved this, like confirmed that this is actually a subscription, or has it rejected it? So then it refactored everything once I told it that, and then I also told it like so then it needs to like try to match a purchase to an existing subscription, and then it only matched it to a verified subscription, not a rejected subscription. And then I told it I also want you to match it to a pending subscription because I think that's still valid. And I think we also should add test cases for those different situations, because now it's like this feels like a business logic kind of thing, right? And then it's just like, it just goes, and it's like, okay, let's add 3 more tests. So it's like, test it matches purchase to confirmed subscription, test it matches purchase to pending subscription, test it does not match purchase to rejected subscription. And it writes those tests, and I approve them, and then it implements the feature. And yeah, that's just how it works. It's really good.
It is really good.
The way this like whole like prompt started, so this is my starting prompt for agent mode. When parsing an email receipt, if the purchase is a subscription, create a new subscription in the database. If it's a purchase for a subscription that already exists, match it to that. Subscriptions also have relations to vendors and carts. Once a subscription is discovered, it should be marked as pending until the user has confirmed it. And then it ignored the cursor rule. And the first thing it was it wanted to run the command to make the subscription model. So then I didn't say anything. I just clicked reject because I wanted to update the rule and start over. But then as I clicked reject, it said, I apologize for not checking the Laravel rules first. Let me fetch those to ensure we follow the project's convention.
The Laravel rules.
It's because I had a rule called Laravel
Oh, okay, yeah.
and one called TDD.
Thought it
So
was
then it
like
loaded
a
them in.
Ten Commandments thing from
But I didn't even
Taylor.
tell it that's why I rejected it. I just rejected
Oh,
it,
yeah,
and it's like,
okay.
oh, that's why you rejected it. I
Oh,
apologize.
wow.
It's really impressive. And then it's like, okay, following TDD practices, let's first create a test for a subscription functionality. I'll create a test for the subscription model, and then and then I got kind of passive aggressive because I told it to do a feature test first, and like, yeah. So I was like, should the cursor rule be more clear on first doing feature level tests? And it's like, yes, you're right. Looking at the TDD rule more carefully, it explicitly states that start with a feature test. Step
Should you
one.
have started with reading the file that I gave you?
So then it created a test that was subscription email receipt test, and I was like, that's a really bad name, you know.
Yeah.
So basically, I told it,
Yeah.
I want you to think like. So then basically, I asked ChatGPT like, I want Cursor to think really hard about what the test should be called at the feature level. So I wanted to like think about what the feature actually is that we're trying to build, and then it updated the rule to do that. So in the end, the test was something like discover subscriptions from emails test, which I think is a good test name. You know, where it kind of describes the feature. Yeah, so I'm just tweaking it along the way, but it just keeps getting better. And it's very like one thing I thought about is like back when I was doing freelance work, like almost 10 years ago, like the thing that I was often like brought in to do was because I was like what I was really interested in was like refactoring code and like legacy code bases and like because when
Are you a
Laravel was new,
masochist?
what? Yeah, no, not. I'm really into that shit. I don't know why, but like when Laravel was new, like I was one of the first people that was really like vocal about it in Denmark. So like back in like 2013, 14, if you Googled anything related to Laravel and Denmark, the first five results in Google was just me and like different like forum threads and my website and all this stuff. So that's like a lot of my consulting was like we have a legacy app that we want to be a Laravel app instead. And then I was also really into like test driven development, which is something I sort of picked up from the Rails world. And so like my whole thing, and I also wrote for do you remember Tuts Plus, the website?
Nope. Tuts plus. Oh, so
Tuts
like
Plus.
tutorials. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I
It
do.
was like an Envato site. I don't know if it still exists. But yeah, when I was living in Thailand, I was paid $250 per article I wrote for them. And I wrote like articles about TDD and stuff like that. And
Nice.
$250 was like more than my rent in Thailand
Sweet
for a
life.
month. That's when I started WP Pusher. That was how I made money while I built that. Um, but yeah, anyways, but yeah, my consulting stuff back then was also related to like implement TDD and kind of bring legacy code bases to more like modern stuff with Laravel and stuff like that. So, and I just feel like with Cursor, like all that stuff is like that hasn't been taken over by Cursor yet. Like all the like architecture and like code quality and mapping out the tests and all this stuff is still there to do. Like someone still needs to really like tell Cursor to do that and help it navigate that. And that's the stuff that I really like actually, and I think that's why I'm having so much fun with it because I'm not very good. Like I can't sit down and code for 8 hours. I first of all I don't have time to do that, but also I never enjoyed doing that really. Like I'm just way too like my attention span is way too short. Like I need to do something for an hour and then do something else and then come back and do another hour. And with Cursor, like I have a huge impact in an hour because I just
Yeah.
use like my expertise about like how to like architecture and a Laravel app, and the result is really good because like pairing that with Cursor is just really good, and it's yeah. So
That's
I'm
it.
having a lot of fun with it right now. I don't know if Cursor is going to take that over as well, but like right as of right now, I'm not super worried that like I just don't think that like you get very far without engineering background right now because it it gets out of hand so incredibly fast. It's just crazy. Like
Yeah,
it can go completely off the rails if you don't. Like
off the
I know, like people
rails.
like Andrew Karpathy and stuff. He's talking about like what does he call it, like vibe coding or something like that, where he doesn't even look at
Oh
the code, and it's fun. You know, he's also like kind of trolling a little bit, I think, but there's some truth to it. But then also I thought about like obviously he's like a crazy good engineer, but I don't really think of him as someone who's like maintaining a SaaS app for 10 years, you know? Like he's more of like a
yeah,
crazy
he's more
mad
the math guy.
scientist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I think like if you
and a
have like
YouTuber now.
applications that are actually in production and being maintained over a long time, you don't really want vibe coding, if that's what they
No,
call it. I can't
no.
remember.
Like the parts that you describe are your tastes, like your own personal
Yeah.
preferences and tastes, and
And
they vary
experience.
so much. And experience, but like experience is something that they can copy. Like an AI can copy
Right.
that, but
Right.
it can't copy your taste because they like they exclude they exclude other humans and their tastes. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
like
but it's
a
I think it's more than just taste. It's also just like it's like there's a certain level of like pattern recognition that they don't have yet, like where I just see like something being architectured in a certain way, and I see a very specific problem down the road from having it architectured that way. Like
yeah,
I
or
can
you
just
see
tell,
that
like,
a problem could come from doing it this way.
yeah, yeah, and it's kind of like chess, you know, where it's like it's a few steps. You have to think like a few steps ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
And
But
obviously
still,
AI can
yeah.
probably learn that, but yeah,
I would say
I
that
think like
that's
just
still
humans
part of your
have more.
taste.
Yeah, that
so
is maybe true.
so like some other person might just ignore, like see that problem as well or not see it but ignore it. And like your tastes are that you would like to avoid such a problem and you
Yeah,
think that it's worthwhile to do it now, and like that's also part of your tastes, I guess.
yeah. But I think it is exciting that you can like invest so much in like the test suite. And it's like
Yeah,
so it costs so little because you don't have to manually write the tests. You could just really like nurture the test base, and then that really is your insurance policy against things just like going off the rails down the path, right? And yeah, so that's like I think that's like one thing that a human is still really good at. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe it's just because like the human has an easier. It's just like more used to like experiencing products themselves because we use them as well. And then the other thing I think like just also why humans matter, which is something I'm going to talk about in my talk as well, is just like we literally have skin in the game, and the AI literally doesn't have skin in the game
yeah.
because it doesn't have skin.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, and and I think yeah, and it exists in like a moment if it exists, it exists in like a moment of time, right? Because you prompt it, and then it exists, and then it disappears almost.
Man, that's a
Uh,
philosophical question I'm not prepared to open right now.
but I think like management and stakeholders and whatever they're called, like they'll want someone, like they don't want, when there's a problem, they don't want people to just be like, oh, that's just because it's the AI's fault. They want it to be a human's fault as well. Like they want someone who's responsible and who has some skin in the game and who's responsible for the quality, that's not an AI. I think for and I think that's going to be true for a long time.
Yeah, that's my take as well. That like anybody can program now, like in quotes, but still everyone is not going to program. Like some people are just wired to make other people do it, and some people want to tinker, and and like luckily it's much easier for them now. So you don't need all the practice that it used to take, but it's still like a personality problem as well. Not a personality problem, but a personality difference that some people just um I don't know, like drift towards tinkering and others drift away. But one tip that I wanted to hear if you have thought about, you can one thing I've done in the tenor code base is to save prompts or like prompt parts in files in the repo. So you could like the instructions to save whatever it learns, you could save in a file. So when you're writing a prompt and you realize that, oh, this is something that it needs to remember from this point on, you could just like hit add sign and then write whatever you call the file, save or like remember, and then include that file, and then it will remember it from that point on. I think that's what I'm going to do.
That's a really good idea. But it's kind of like a rule, right?
Yes, I think, yeah, but it may be because you wanted like sort of to be explicit about when you wanted to remember things. Otherwise, you could get into like it deciding a thing and then it remembers that it decided it, but actually you didn't agree.
So do you have one prompt per file, or you have all the prompts in one file?
So what I have is in the Tenor code base. Let me just pull it up so I can like say the right directory names, even though it doesn't matter. So I have a directory called .ai, and inside .ai I have some plain text files that are just like no, I have two directories. So one is called prompts, and in that I have plain text files that are just named like commit or localize or slim to ERB. So slim to ERB, for example, is the text, convert this template from slim to ERB. And how I use it is to do Command I in cursor to bring up the composer, and then just type add slim to, and then it auto completes to this file, and I just send it that file again because it includes the prompt that I then reuse. And the same for localize, which is just like replace all UI text with localized strings. So that means when I'm typing a template, I don't use the localization helper in Rails, which is like T and then parentheses and then you give it a key. So replace all UI text with localized strings. Use scoped keys starting with the dot. This is just a preference in Rails. Don't update my locale file. Just give me the extracted keys in YAML. This is because the locales are like one huge YAML file. And for cursor to input something way down at the bottom, it has to rewrite the whole file. And that takes ages. So I'll just put it in there manually, but just give me the update. And then keep the keys short and descriptive. Scope keys in sections where it makes sense. So this could go in a section in my cursor rules instead, like when doing localization, do this. But I find it easier to just like write the template in English or Danish, doesn't matter which one. And then when I'm done, call this command, and then it does all the grunt work, I guess.
I think that's a great idea. I haven't really had a lot of prompts that I kind of reuse, but I could see like situations like the ones you mentioned, like you're describing, where it makes sense.
I have one as well that I'm not using too much, but I should probably. It's called commit, and its contents are check diff, write good commit message, template, git commit -m, verb description. The verb should be imperative, like add, remove, update, change, fix. That's just like a preference that I've also picked up at some point. And like, have you ever like stared at the cursor in your terminal trying to commit something, like, what do I even call this change?
Yeah.
It's just you can skip all that thought and just put it in there. Cursor will just write fixes and then commit it. Try again, maybe. Didn't work. Fuck this shit. Fuck this shit again.
I'm kind of thinking now if I should use ChatGPT or something like that to help me like plan the feature before I send the agent off, just to make it even.
Yeah.
Like,
that's the
use
thing I thought as
ChatGPT.
well for TDD.
Use ChatGPT to like sort of like figure out the feature and then write like a really thorough prompt and like maybe include stuff like, this is the feature, this is what the feature is, and this is what it's called, this is what the test should be called. And
yeah, I think so, because you don't want it to,
it is,
like, you don't want it to just start writing tests because it might test the wrong thing, right? So you want to
and it's kind of easy to like it's easier to sort of figure out like all the different like the models and the database relationships and stuff like that before it starts writing a bunch of code, because then it has to rewrite all that code, and I don't know, it just gets a little bit more complicated.
I
But
have a
this is
friend
like a whole
called
new way to like build software that we are trying to figure out, which is makes
yeah,
it really interesting. And I
my friend
I think
Casper.
Adam,
Um, just related to what you just spoke about, my friend Casper Tim Hansen has this thing he calls riffing on Rails, which is basically that. So describing the change in almost like a markdown document before he starts coding. So he just opens up a new Ruby file and then starts writing the model relations and all that without it going into the code base, but just like shaping out the thing. Then
yeah,
this has to lead to this thing, then that has to lead to this thing. I might put this into a, and then in the end, he has like one Ruby file with like a bunch of modules and classes in it, but it describes the whole, like the end result almost.
yeah,
And
I
I
kind of do
bet you
that
could give
too.
that to Cursor. Like give it the riff, and then it just puts it into the
Yeah,
right places and makes tests and
I
all that.
do that too in like in tests actually, or like sometimes I make like a Laravel command that I can run from the command line, and I just start like building out models and relationships and stuff just to like get an API for something, figure it
Yeah,
out.
yeah. But as soon
I
as you
do
have
that
to
too.
like, as soon as you start writing database migrations and all that, there's so much chore like going into just getting the right keys and
Yeah, but sometimes
validations and
I'll
whatever.
even do that command, but then just like do like create like a PHP object that's or like an anonymous PHP class or something like that instead of like an actual model. I just like start doing stuff like that just to get some sort of like API figured out if I can't like wrap my head around it. But I think ChatGPT could help me do that too, just because it's like really good at I don't know, it's just way less lazy than I am. So it's like it just like thinks it takes a few extra cycles of like thinking of like, should we add this to it? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? That's
Yeah,
actually something I thought about today. Is like obviously Cursor is really fast at writing code, but like I'm pretty fast at writing code too, and like generating code with Laravel generators, and then like filling out stuff and the IDEs are auto completing and stuff. Like it's not because I'm super slow, but like every time I do literally one thing, I take a break and like check Twitter or like take a sip of my drink or go out and pee or like roll around on my chair like literally every line of code I do something, I have some sort of thing I do afterwards.
it's
And Cursor does
it's
not,
just
like it just
first world problems.
right. Yeah,
But
so it
yeah,
just doesn't take breaks, that's a big difference.
yeah, yeah. That's really that's in the end that's why it's gonna take our jobs. It's not because it's inherently better. It can just stay focused for more than 6
But
seconds
that's
at a
that's
time.
that's the good part about at least how it is right now, because I feel like I get to be like the idea guy or the McKinsey
Yeah,
consultant that has like
yeah,
strong
yeah, yeah,
opinions, and
yeah. Scratch
I
that.
just show up and play important and
Let's do something else.
yeah,
Yeah, but you're right. You're right. But it's fun. Like I'm still. It's weird because I go back and forth between Vim. I really like Vim, and I've actually spent a few days now where I just disabled all kinds of AI, like any kind of AI. I didn't want it in my Vim, and it was almost like almost nice to have just the peace and quiet to type code,
yeah,
like it was 3 years ago, and then I get to a point where it's like, okay, now I have to type maybe 100 letters, and I don't want to do that. So I open up Cursor with that file and just it immediately suggests the exact 100 characters that I was going to type. It's like, okay, yeah, if I yeah, I feel like I'm caught in somewhere in between that. Like I want this, but I also want that.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I think I told you this before, but like when I started working at Localebase and as a junior developer, the two Jacobs there, Mentalizer and Jacob Adson, they would write because I was literally learning Rails. I had 2 weeks of experience or something like that. They would write out RSpec test cases for me, and then I would just implement them. So they would think through the feature with me, and then they would write the test, and I would just implement them. And it was really fun, and it was a fun way to learn. And actually, like I think both because of that, but also because of just like kind of maybe it's like some ADHD like coping mechanism or something like that. Like the way I always build stuff is I write out as many like test cases as I can up front, And then as soon as I have the tests written out, I can sort of like relax because I feel like I don't need to keep more um, context in the RAM because I have everything in the test, and then I just need to like slowly implement it like step by
Yeah.
step. And it really like so then I can sort of turn my brain off and just like write code and enjoy that without like stressing out about keeping all this remembering stuff. I don't have to remember anything once I'm done with the test.
Especially
And I
if
think
they're
actually
like fast tests. If it's like
yeah.
sub-second.
Well yeah. But yeah, I think one type of programming that could be really fun for me would be just to like work with Cursor to like write out a lot of tests so they're just
Oh,
ready for me, and then spend some time like really like get them good, and then
yeah.
afterwards I can just kind of like turn Cursor off and it's just me and I get to like implement these tests.
There's almost like an advent of code if you've ever tried
Right.
those things. I get like a
It is,
problem
yeah.
and a test case. No, that's the what's it called? Imposter? No, that's like there's a project that has these coding katas. Is that the word?
Yeah, katas, yeah,
Yeah,
coding kata.
where you just get the test and it's failing and you
Yeah,
have to
but I think
implement
that
them
would be
dot by
fun.
dot.
I don't know if it'd
It's
be
just
productive, but it'd be
great fun.
fun.
Yeah.
And then also like when you have the test, it's like it's also fun to refactor code, and there's
Yeah.
always a lot of stuff to potentially refactor with this AI written code.
But you say you go back and forth between ChatGPT and Cursor. Why don't you just chat in Cursor?
I don't know why.
Is it
I
like
just
context change that you want or like?
I don't know. Like it's like
Like
there's like
ChatGPT is the
almost like this
same,
superstitious,
but without the
superstitious.
context. So you could
Yeah,
just
but
you could just
ChatGPT is
switch
more
to the
like
ChatGPT model in Cursor, and then you have the same but with the context. But you like you
ChatGPT
like
is
to
like in my
yeah.
brain, and Cursor is like a tool on my computer.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is like
So
my
conceptually,
companion, my life companion. Don't tell Maya.
it's almost like a mentor or something. Like someone outside the
Yeah,
company that you go have coffee with.
right. Yeah, but I don't know why I don't do it in Cursor. I don't really. Once I'm in like the composer thing in agent mode, I don't really want to go move away from it. I think.
Yeah, but they have a chat mode where you just chat. And I think
Yeah,
it
yeah,
wouldn't start writing code because
yeah.
that's
But I just,
yeah.
yeah,
I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you
So
use Claude in Cursor? I don't know. There's also maybe part of me that thinks that it's like I get a different take or a different perspective when I use ChatGPT because instead of using Claude.
I think you
But I don't
do.
know if there's anything to it.
I've actually experimented with switching to 0.01, the OpenAI O one model, the
The
reasoning
expensive
model.
one.
Yes, for
It's like
like
$200 or something.
no, not that one. But there's
Okay.
like if you have ChatGPT Pro, like the paid
Okay.
version, the ordinary paid version, $20 a month or whatever it is, you get an O one model. That's the reasoning model, and I've experimented with in Cursor switching to that one for larger structural changes. So I don't know what it was. I think it was optimizing the config editor in LeaderKey, which is Swift UI, and it's like terribly slow. It's like performing so badly, and I just like this is modern tech. This shouldn't be slow. Like it's updating what like a key value map of like 20 keys, and it's just like unbearably slow. Um, and Claude has yet failed to optimize this in any way that's noticeable. Um, so I asked O1 instead to like think about it. Should I just rewrite this in AppKit instead? And I think, or like maybe it was like I asked it, like what can I do? What are my options here? Should is it worth it to rewrite it? Can I rewrite it? How much would it take? I don't know what the question is, because the answer to what would it take is like prompt me and I'll do it in a second. so so that was
Yeah.
the question, but it does uh answer in a different manner or one, so
Hmm.
it could be useful to switch between
Yeah, I
them
should try that.
for different problems.
Yeah. I know we
It's
talked for an
more
hour,
like,
but
yeah,
can I say two things that Cursor screwed up this week just to like counterbalance this
only two
really
things.
positive? Like the first thing it did was it was like, okay, let's run the test again. So it ran the command PHP artisan migrate :fresh, which means like delete the database.
Oh, so
And
funny.
it's like, I'm not using my local database for the test. I'm using a different test database, you know?
Oh no.
But I didn't see it, so I wiped the database, which is really annoying. And then the other thing it did was like, like the part of the code that's not tested right now is the code that calls, that receives the email and calls OpenAI. And you know, I'm okay with stuff like that not being tested, but then I try to keep it like really as a, you know, I try to encapsulate it a little bit so it's only that part that's not tested. And it was adding a new feature, and it just kept like making things worse and worse and worse because it was trying to test this part to add another feature because it needed to basically have an email being sent and OpenAI to respond to something. So it was trying to mock things and still calling the OpenAI API and stuff like that. At some point, I had to be like, you know, the way I would just solve this is like I would throw an event once this is done, and then all the data would be in that event. And then when we test all the other stuff, we just throw that event, and that's kind of how the test starts. It's like, yes. And then everything was better. But like if you're just vibe coding, that would have just been an infinite loop of just like making
Yeah,
things worse and worse and
yeah,
worse and worse. And that's just
yeah,
where experience comes in, I feel like.
definitely. Have
Yeah.
you noticed that it's gone from certainly to yes?
Yes, I just tweeted it. Yeah, they changed the system prompt
It's
from
almost
certainly
like
to
they
yes.
decided for it to not say certainly, it should
Is it
say yes.
yes week or is it certainly week?
It's yes now.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's end
Also
on that.
fun that like humans are just so good at pattern recognition that we just immediately notice, okay, this bot is instructed to say yes all the time.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
uh yeah, so yeah, I've had those as well, which is like there's an obvious solution to this.
You
Why
need
are
to go
you like
two steps back instead of one step back, you know?
yeah, it's almost like it's always symptom like handling the symptoms instead of going to the cause. Like
It's treating the symptoms. Yeah, it's true.
yeah, yeah. So still hope, still room, still use
At
for
some point, it
us.
was even like, let me fix the test. And it just like changed the test to like not even test the right thing anymore. So
Just put a
now
bang
it's
in there.
past. It's like,
Exclamation
what the hell?
to not be true.
Yeah.
All green now.
Bro.
Yes. I
Yeah,
see where the
yes.
problem is. Unreasonable expectations.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Yes, Peter.
Yeah, see you next week.
See you next week.